What's the farthest off the grid you've been?
Oh, well, there's been several places I've been that take, 2 weeks to get to from the time you get close to the region. But you have to take lots of different commuter planes and things like that. Papua New Guinea would definitely be one. I went to several regions in Papua New Guinea. The Greenland, definitely, because you go by dog sled to many places and it takes so many days once you land in Greenland to get to the regions that you want to go to. Um, Definitely part of this last trip that I just went on. And then any trip to the Amazon, because you have to go so far in to really get away from civilization. And typically, very dangerous. You basically have to bribe people to take you because it's so dangerous. And so you'll be on a road that they are building in front of you, like they're cutting it out of the mountain, and waterfalls are constantly washing it away, and you can't hire a pilot to get you in there. So I would say maybe the Amazon, actually, of all of them, because that when I've been there, and it's to the regions that I'm going. I'm sure that's not the case for all Amazon trips, but there's not even radio communication. And so if you get into a pickle, you're in a pickle. There's no one coming to help you at all. Yeah, I would say that would probably be it, because also the modes of transportation, you have to hop on and off many different things. So, you'll be on a long drive and then boats and then boats and then boats and then boats. And that's after taking a plane before the drive. So probably that one. Mm-hmm.
As I'm picturing the Amazon, I'm picturing so much trust when you talked about safety with, the people that you're associating with, the wildlife out there, the environment, the harsh environment that, us over here in the West aren't used to. Is it a really humbling experience to disconnect? Like you said, no radio, obviously no Wi-Fi. What is that feeling like? Because a lot of us have never been there and will never be there.
Yes. What's funny is that you can come with your kind of cultural imprint of, okay, there's these infections in the region, and these are the deadly snakes and the deadly insects, and be mindful of these. But honestly, as soon as you get there and you see a whole community sitting on the dirt, laughing, having fun, it being so healthy, all that goes away, and you're just very present. I would say the feeling that I get when I'm with these communities is that of a conscious meditation. Kind of like if you've spent much time, if you're a dog person, you'll notice that dogs are very present and you just feel good around them. Well, whenever I'm in these communities, they're not as lost in their thoughts. They're very present and they're very open and warm. And the children are as well. And so there's a lot of laughter, sincerity, deep connections rather quickly, and a lot of eye contact, things that just make you feel very relaxed as a human, not just on a perceptible level, but also on a nervous system level, right? Your HRV starts going up whenever you're around this many people that are calm and happy. And so in general, it's a very lovely feeling. Now, reality can check in, and there are times where, where it has been serious. So for instance, when my dog sled almost fell through the ice in the Arctic twice because it was starting to melt and change seasons, that was significant. Or really, I would say in the Amazon, got into some serious trouble many times, especially going through towns where there's drug trades and things like that. And I mean, you're 8 days into the forest. You don't expect to run into trouble, but you really can. And then you're very much at the mercy of luck, your social graces, acting like an idiot. Basically, you have to act like an idiot and pretend like you have nothing valuable, which you should never bring valuable things into any of these regions. But that's who. And then also whoever brought you, how good they are at navigating that, to prevent like kidnappings and things like that. So there's definitely that. But I was the most humbled this last year. I had my scariest, I would say, trip this year, and that was in Ethiopia. in the Omo Valley, which in general, Ethiopia is much more safe than a lot of the countries I go to in a lot of the African countries. You can have your windows down in your car. You don't have to guard things all the time. You can have a phone. Most places I go, you can't have your phone out. So that's not a problem. But they were tipping back into another civil war and tribal warfare. And so, cell towers were going down, airports were closing. It was getting really bad. People were marching on the streets with machetes, like 40 grown men. It was really not good. So that was very humbling, I would say, and that was definitely one of those moments where I was like, "What am I doing?"
And how does your family and friends react when you're going to go to a remote area? I'm sure
Oh,
they get used to it to a point, but you'd never become totally used to it. How, are they encouraging, or how do they feel?
well, now I think now because it's been so many years and so many trips, just countless trips that Uh, Mom just doesn't want to know too much, just that I'm home safe and wants to hear from me regularly when I can. Dad thinks it's great. He loves it. I think he's living vicariously. But I do really stay very close in contact with him. I'll tell him if there's any trouble. I'll always connect with the embassy and that kind of thing. So I do cross my T's. But no, I think in general, they would prefer I not. But they also know that they don't have much sway in that area. The first time I went out, Mom was terrified. I would say most of my family and friends were terrified because I had been so sick before, and I was going into these regions where there was, just horrific, deadly illnesses, and so they were like, "What are you doing? Why would you go here after all of that?" But after so many, everyone gets a little numb and they just kind of nod. Mhm.
In your deepest travels to the remote areas, do you feel like you've been to an area that what the people of the West haven't been to previously? Have you gotten that deep in?
I have.
Where was that?
Yeah, I've been to many on almost every continent. Yeah, there's
Obviously, there's, indigenous people there, I'm assuming. Maybe
yes,
not, but
yes,
people from the West, areas that we haven't actually been.
yes, because many of the places I'm going are they're not valuable to the West, right? And so the places that were valuable already had people coming. And as that happened, the indigenous got pushed off to other lands. And so they're often on land that maybe we wouldn't deem valuable right now. That always changes by the decade and what's found and all of that. But because of that, definitely, I've been to many places where there haven't been encroachment. Now, that is changing drastically. So, what you would have, even in many of these zones, would be governmental schools that were self run by the locals, but the government mandated that they have schools. So, you didn't have people coming in from the outside, but you had this. And what changed recently, and why I'm saying that this is not going to be the case for long, if it's even remaining now, is that a lot of nonprofits came into these schools during COVID and gave everyone cell phones. And so that's when a lot of these regions had that. But some of these regions are really hiding. It's why it can take so long to get into them and to build trust, and why I don't always bring out a camera. It's because, or I don't until later or a second trip. It's because they're really in hiding because they're trying to keep a semblance of their culture alive. And in almost, if not all the places I've been, it's really quite illegal to live in the traditional way. So, like with the Sami in Sweden, they're not allowed to have their houses. They have to have a house like us, right? And in most of the communities that I went to throughout Latin and South America, they aren't allowed to be seen in their traditional clothing. So if they go for a long hunt and run into people, they can get jailed or killed. All sorts of things can happen. And so they're going more and more remote. And some of them so far remote that, the books would say these people have died out when they haven't. But, we'll see how long that lasts for, I would say.
And do you feel like there's people, I should say, in areas, say, in South America, that are so deep within the jungle that they haven't even had contact with other humans?
Oh, yes, there are. So, for instance, one of my trips to the Amazon, the area that I was going to are known to be pretty peaceful. So they're small subsistence farmers, and they live about 30 minutes away from each other. It's very sweet. On the other side of the river, there's a group that's hunter-gatherer. And if you all watch or read National Geographic had this amazing photo taken from a helicopter of someone with a bow and arrow trying to shoot them down. And this wasn't that long ago. This is that group, and they are very untouched. And part of it is because they shoot before asking. So you can't get close. Even my friends that I was going to visit, they can't get close either. So there are some of those groups. There's not many, but there are some. There's some island groups like that as well, and they tend to be very aggressive towards outsiders. Now, they may not be actual aggressive cultures, but I think it's a pretty rational response when so much harm has happened, when people have come. And so it could just be very simply like, stay away. This is our land. And if something comes, they shoot. But yeah, there's about 5 or 6 that I can think of off the top of my head that have had zero touching from the outside. It doesn't say that they're not affected, though, because they've often, again, been pushed to regions, or there's been something that happened in that region. So, for instance, with the hunter-gatherer group that I just mentioned in the Amazon, they had illegal mining in that area in the 1800s. So there's a lot of heavy metals in the water and in the soil, and that can cause health issues. So I don't know if I'd find the pristine health with that group or not, but we may never know, to be honest. It's very difficult to get in with them, get anywhere close. And I don't know if you want to. I don't think you'd survive.
So the examples you gave there's been awareness, at least, of people of the
Mhm.
West. But that would lead us to believe even deeper in there'd be a good chance there would be people that have never even seen another human from the West.
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely. Mhm.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
What the Blue Zone is selling fits with the narrative of what we've heard really since the food pyramid, and promotes that further. We tend to be like, okay, I'm going to have this organ and nothing else. That's not the ancestral way. The ancestral way would be